Today's daf of Kuf Chaf Aleph. Shmini had said this is Gemara. This Gemara, we had the exact same Gemara we had in Masechta Tainis. Beautiful Gemara. Tanas we learned. You saw there's no other Yom Tov to Eden like Chamisha Asa B'Av and Yom Kippurim. Shebehen B'nai Yisrael Yotzes B'Klei Lavan. She'ulin, they would go out with white garments, borrowed, so they shouldn't embarrass each other. And the Rebbe explains the Machlekes, the Babli, and Yerushalmi. You know, if you went down, you went up. And interesting, it says in the Sfarim, because it says they wore white on Yom Kippur. That's one of the bases for wearing your kittel on Yom Kippur. Is from right here. Shaloi levayish esmi she'enlein. Why did they borrow? So that the poor shouldn't feel impoverished. And what were they doing then? They were going out there. They were let the Mishnah in Tainus. They were saying, "Bacha bacha sana inecha, lift your eyes up and stop looking at Gashmi, look at Mishpacha, Sheker Achein, Vehevel Hayefi, and all that." Telling about the Bishleim and Kippur, I understand why it was a Yom Tov. Yom Slicha Mechila, Yom Shnitna Belucha Acherenis. Big machlekes. It's not mefurish, but if you look closely in the Girsayis and the Rishonim, is this one reason or two reasons? Our Gemara says Yom Slicha Mechila is Yom Shnitna Belucha Acherenis. Other Gemaras it says, especially in Tainus, Yom Slicha Mechila Yom Shnitna Belucha Acherenis. Two reasons. Our Gemara says there's one reason. The great Rashi and Ashbam learned why Taka was Yom Kippur chosen to be Yom Kippur, because this is after the story of the golden calf of the Egel and exactly 80 days Moshe Rabbeinu spent in Shemayim. It came down. Hashem said Salachti, and because Hashem said Salachti, was decided that this should be Yom Kippur. So that's one reason. That's one reason. But if you learn the other Girsa, Yom Slicha Mechila, the Yom Kippur is giving you two reasons. Why? Why is Yom Kippur different? Every Yom Tov has a important thing happen. So why is it the biggest Yom Tov? Because here two things happened. Every Yom Tov, one thing happened. We left Mitzrayim. We received the Torah on Shavuos. Here two things happened. First of all, Yom Slicha Mechila, and second of all, we received the Luchas Achareinis, and that's why it stands out compared to all the other Yom Tov. Ella Chamish Advamah. What happened 50 days of? And how this Gemara follows here is because, as you'll see, this is when they allowed the tribes to intermarry. Number one, this is the day that the Shvatim allowed to marry each other. My daughters, the Torah said you're not allowed to. How did they come along and say mutter? We just learned before in yesterday's Gemara, Zeh Hadover. It says Zeh Hadover. Only in this generation that applies. The next generation, they can marry they want. Only generation. Now the Gemara will give us more reasons. Why the Gemara gives more reasons? So the Rashbam says they're not arguing with each other, just adding. But why they're adding is to explain why is this a special Yom Tov. Every Yom Tov has a reason. It's special because it's more than one thing happened in this Yom Tov. And the Gemara gives five things. This is the day that Binyamin, after the Chachamim banned anyone marrying in Shei Binyamin, after the story we had Pelegij Begiva, what they did to that woman, that concubine. So then they said nobody should marry to Binyamin, and the children they allowed to marry to Binyamin. And it was a big day because they were able to marry each other. First they made a vow. None of us will give none of us will give to Binyamin. So the kvetch is us, our generation, who witnessed this terrible event. But our children's generation, they can give their children to marry Binyamin. And that happened on Tu B'Av as well. I guess because Tu B'Av was the day they dashed about all the Shvatim marrying each other, so it was Tu B'Av as well. They decided this is a similar vein to allow marry Binyamin. Rav Dimi Bar Yosef Amar Rab Nachman Yom Shekolu by Mesa Midbar. This is the day that Mesa Midbar died. Actually, called Mason before Mason died in for 38 years. And the next one it says, Hashem spoke to me. Okay, big machek to show you what actually happened here. Rashi and machek is also understand. Rashi basically learned every year Tisha B'Av, they would all dig themselves a grave. They would lie down. And those are 6 years old, they said the next morning, said, get up, and whoever got up, whoever didn't. And this happened every year. Came the last year, they went Tisha B'Av and nothing happened, so they went the next day, they maybe made a mistake in the moon, and then it turned out to be all right. So what's Pshat? Is the Pshat that there were 15,000 people that should have died and they didn't? Or is the Pshat, they didn't realize that there was only, so many will die and didn't die. So the Machlek is how to understand Pshat in the Rishonim who bring that Medish. Because if you learn that 15,000 died each year, that means 15,000 didn't die. And then it's difficult to Gemara here, because the Gemara says, the Mason Mitzvah stopped dying. So the Gemara should stop right there. That's the Simcha. What's the Simcha? 15,000 Yidden who were supposed to die, part of that, punishment, Zayda, didn't. But the Gemara doesn't say that. The Gemara says, you know what the Yom Tov is? Because of course, man, the Eden were dying, the Eibush, the Shechina wasn't talking to Moshe Rabbeinu. The moment they stopped dying, to the Yom Tov is the fact that the Eibush is talking to Moshe Rabbeinu again. Not because it's, so it sounds like that there's no nest at 15,000, no 15,000 was spared. So there's another gift that says that 18 or 21,000 died every year because only 38 years. And you had to get 600,000 in 38 years. Because the first year didn't happen, it only happened after Meraglim, which is year number 2. And the last year, they didn't die. They didn't know. What they didn't know is 20 means the 20th year, doesn't mean 20 years and a month, doesn't mean 20 years and a day. So therefore, they didn't know, not because there was no nest. This is always the plan. They just didn't know what the plan was.
So the nest is that the Shechina.
Oh, the nest is that the Shechina spoke to them, yeah. And Teisel, they did die every single year, and Lav Dafka Tishba, they died throughout the year. And Tishba, they made a cheshbon, or more people died in Tishba than other days. And 15 times a year, the Eden was sad because they knew people were going to die. The moment they stopped being sad, the Eibusha does not rest on people ba'atzos who are sad. Now, interesting is, it says Vayidaber Elai. So sometimes, some Shashayim say the kvetch is Elai. Hashem spoke to me. That's the... Others say the kvetch is Vayidaber. And interesting because Rashi and Chumash always have Vayemer is Losher Raka. Vayemer is nice, and Vayidaber is tough. They say Vayidaber is Losher Chiba. Not the word you like, but Vayidaber is Losher Chiba. Interesting. What about during those 38 years? So one shot that Rashbam says is the Eibush should not speak to him directly. He used a malach, he used other things. Another shot is the Eibush did speak to him the 38 years, but only in times of necessity, like the story of Kaidach, which happened right after Menaglim. But Stam, no. Tell you what, right? Ula said this is the day that Hashem ben Allah they took away the guards that the sentries that Yeravim put into place that nobody should go to the base of Mikdash. Rav Masna Rabbi Yasa says Yom Shenitna Harugi Betel Lekvura, the day that Harugi Beiti were allowed to be buried. Rav Masna Oisa Yom Harugi Betel Lekvura Tiknu Beyavna Teva Meiti. Benching has 3 brachas, and then we added the 4 bracha tova meitiv. We also have the bracha tova meitiv when it comes to wine. So Taisus and Bracha says, and other places that they had, and Tainus, that the tova meitiv is also referring to the bracha making wine because the Medrash says that all the people who were killed in Beitar, they put them next to a vineyard. And the grapes, they grew unbelievably well, and they didn't allow them to be buried for a number of years. So that's why they took Hatoy V'Meiti, put into benching. So thank the Eibishter for Hatoy. It says right here in Gemara, that the bodies did not decompose. Plus, they were allowed to be buried, and also because it's near a vineyard, so therefore we say Hatoy V'Meiti by wine. That's number. Yeah. Another one is Yom Shepoiskim by Melichres Eitzim Aracha. This is the day they stopped chopping wood for the mizbech. What happened is, in the northern hemisphere, the 15th day above is the hottest day, or that's when it starts. The days get shorter, and the sun starts to abate. And why? Why is that a big deal? So Rashi in Mauritania says because once the sun is not so hot, it gets moist, and if it's moist, worms infest the wood. The Rashbam says here there's 2 reasons: the worms, and also when it's moist, smoke comes out when you burn it, and we don't want any smoke. There's 2 reasons. And Tanya, Rabbi Lezer Gadol Oimed. The sun became weaker. They stopped. They actually called the day of Tubav the day they put away the sickle. Now, there are 6 reasons, but actually 5, because the days that Binyamin were able to marry into the rest of the Eden, and that the days all the people can marry each other tribes are very similar. 5 reasons. And the reason why I have 5 reasons for Tubav is to counteract Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av, we know, there are 5 things, terrible things that are brought down in Shulchan Aruch and everywhere else. What happened on Tisha B'Av, and they're all to do. And here to combat that, we have 5 valid reasons why it's a Yom Tov, and that's why Lo Yom Tov, because it cured. One of them was the Sinas Chinam, and here you have the Avos Chinam. You to marry each other, so it cured. It was an antidote for every Yom Tisha B'Av. That's why Tubav is such a big thing. Now, very interesting. The Rashbam learns from here that Yom Tava Magul, what's the big Yom Tov? So what's the big Yom Tov? So they say, stop cutting the wood. What's the Yom Tov? And the Rashbam, I'll just finish the last word. The Rashbam says here, on that day, mitzvah gedoyle kazais. They finished such a big mitzvah. If you look in Hilchas Simchas Torah and the Ramah, when we're going to make a big thing of Simchas Torah, is because we finished the Gomra Shel Torah. So where do you learn that you make a Simcha for that? So some bring this Rashbam as the basis. When you finish a mitzvah, you have to make a big Simcha. The Mashal Baba Kama and other places. Now, what's very interesting is the Meiri says, so what's the Yom Tov? Because it says here, let's go one more line. If you learn more Torah, because the nights are getting longer, nights are for learning Torah, you live a longer life. If you don't learn more Torah, Yosef, you will pass away. My Yosef will pass away. You'll die young, and your mother will have to bury you. Now, very interesting machlekes. You know that there's two kibbudim we'll give on Simchas Torah: Chasam Torah and Chasam Bereishis. Which is the greater kibbutz? The one who finishes the Torah or the one who starts? So there's a Mordechai who says the one who finishes. There's others who say the one who starts. Right here in the Gemara, the way that Rashbam learned, what's the Yom Tov? That we finished the mitzvah. The Meiri learned the Yom Tov is that now we can start learning Torah. In other words, we're starting a mitzvah. That's the machlekes.
This is eight in La'atzim Arocha. It's got a hechsher mitzvah. Now I can bring karbonis.
Yeah, I'm saying yes. So I'm saying, what is it's Gomer Shel Mitzvah? He says
I'm
Gomer Mitzvah.
celebrating that I finished harvesting wood. Now I can bring karbonis.
That's not what the Rashbam says. He said we just quoted him. The mitzvah is of chopping wood,
of the harvesting of wood.
Yeah, so that's itself is a mitzvah. So I'm just saying is the two versions of how to understand the Gemara here is the Yom Tov ending or the Yom Tov starting to learn is the machlek is what's greater, Chasam Torah or Chasam Bereishis. Tell them what we learned. There were seven people. There are seven people that connect from the beginning of time to Mashiach. Who are they? Mr. Selach Ra Adam. Mr. Selach saw Adam Rishon. Shem Ra Mr. Selach. That's three. Yaakov Ra Shem. Yaakov saw Shem. Amram Ra is Yaakov. Amram saw Yaakov. Achia Shaleini Ra is Amram. Achia Shaleini saw Amram. If you know the Rambam says that Achia Shaleini is the one who brought the Torah down because he was Bahasi, which is coming more right here. And Eliyahu Ra Achia Shaleini and Eliyahu saw Badayin Kayim. Says that Rashbam and other Shem is clear. This Gemara hold that Eliyahu is not Pinchas. Because if Eliyahu was Pinchas, we can bypass one name because Pinchas saw Moshe, and Pinchas is still living on because Pinchas is Eliyahu. But good for him for that. Maybe the Gemara holds that since Pinchas is Eliyahu, this is a malach form and this is a person form. We don't want to count, and that's why others say Chanoich is not counted because actually if Chanoich became malach matat like it says in the Medrash, then there's only three people. Chanoich saw Adam, and that's it. Two people. Adam, Chanoich, and you're connected. Anyway, okay, and we also know that Achia Shaleini is the one who was the teacher of the Baal Shem Tov, so Mela would connect it straight back to Adam Rishon. So the Gemara Achia Shaleini was Amram Baksiv. It says, how can you say so? Amram? It says that in the midbar below Noisid Mehem Ish keep calling for the Sheminun. Nobody's left over. This is what we discussed about people over 60 will speak. First of all, I can tell you, Shevet Levi there was no Gzeda against them. The Chivit says, the Midbar Hazeh Yiplu Pigreichem, the Yodai, V'chol Pikudechem, L'chol Mizparchem, all those counted, all those are counted from the age of 20 Shana and over. But we know that Shevet Levi, they were counted for their work was either from 30 days or from 30 years old. So therefore, they were not included. Miship Kudah Ben Esim, only those who were counted from the age of 20 for the service to Hashem. Yatsa Shita Shalei, Miship Kudah Ben Shloishim, from 30, either 30 days or 30 years, different ways of learning. So therefore, Shevet Levi was not punished at all in the Midbar. Says the Gemara, okay, but other Shvatim didn't go in. But time we learned Yoyed ben Menashe, which we mentioned last time. Umachir ben Menashe, they were born still in Menashe. Noilu ben Yaakov, they were born in time of Yaakov. They lived for a very long time. They entered Yisrael. How do we know that? To Nema, because it says, Vayaku mehem anshe ha'ai, when they didn't listen, anyway, they went to Ai over there. 36 people went to Ai, and they were punished there. But Tanya Shloishim v'Shisha Mamish. One opinion is that 36 people were killed in Ai after Yericho. Divrei Yehuda. Doesn't say 36 people died. It says Kish like 36. One person who's equal to 36. This is Menashe's son Yoyed. He was such a great tzaddik. He was like 36 people. So we see other people survived the midbar. So Ella Amar Abacha Yaakov. The question is, you tell me you survive, and these people survive. How do they survive? When it says the pasuk clearly, only Kalev and Yeshua. Anybody under 20, it was not including the Gzeda. Okay. Anybody over 60 was not included in the Gzeda. Well, Achir Shleim was over 60, and so was Yori ben Menashe and Mochi Menashe. We just said, Ben Esim Shalom Amayel, clear. How do I know not more than 60? Gomar Umala. We learn out we compare it to Erech. What do we know about Erech when you say I'm going to donate the person's value to the base of Midrash? Erech. The Torah gives you a fixed amount. But once you're over 60, your value becomes equal to less than 20. So over 60, all of us here are over 60, we're now worth less than a 20-year-old. He's a Mela, since 20, you have to be 20 and above to be punished in the midbar. So 60 and above don't count. Over 60 is like less than 20. Avkan, yes, ben shishim. Over 60 is kepachas ben is like less than 20. Okay, that finishes the Gemara. We'll continue tomorrow. Mitzvah. We'll learn tomorrow the Gemara for Shemini